I was dismantling an old car and found a tape recorder with a murder confession inside. My name's John Mercer. I'm 42 years old, and I've spent most of my life under the hood of a car. My dad opened Mercer Auto Repair back in the late 80s, right off Route 23 in Ohio. When he passed away, the place became mine. It's not much, 2 bays, a busted Coke machine out front, and a garage radio that still plays classic rock, but it's home. Most of the time, my days are pretty uneventful. Oil changes, brake pads, the occasional engine swap when someone thinks their beat-up Civic still has a few lives left. But every once in a while, someone brings me a project car, usually an old clunker they want restored or salvaged for parts. That's how this whole thing started. A guy named Barry from the county impound called me one Tuesday morning. Said they were clearing out a lot full of abandoned vehicles, and one of them, an old 1991 Cadillac DeVille, was mine for cheap if I wanted it. It had been sitting for over a decade. Won't even start, Barry said. But the body's decent. Might be worth your time. I've always had a soft spot for Cadillacs, so I told him to drop it off. When the tow truck arrived, I got my first look at it. The paint was flaking, the tires were sun-rotted, and the windshield had a crack like a spider web in the corner. But the chrome still gleamed under the grime, and something about it felt off, like it had been waiting. That afternoon, I pulled it into the garage and started tearing it down. The inside was musty, like wet carpet and old leather. There was an empty coffee cup in the console with a faded gas station logo, a broken cassette stuck halfway into the player, and papers scattered across the back seat, mostly old insurance forms and faded DMV slips that I started with the dashboard. While removing the paneling, my flashlight beam hit something wedged deep behind the glove compartment. It was a small black plastic recorder, one of those voice-activated dictation recorders they sold in office stores back in the 90s. Covered in dust, but intact. I paused. You see, I've found weird stuff in cars before. A loaded revolver in a trunk, a shoebox full of love letters, even an urn with someone's ashes. But this felt different. I took the recorder to my workbench, blew off the dust, and popped in some fresh AA batteries. The tiny screen flickered. There were 2 recordings stored on it. Just 2. Curiosity got the best of me. I hit play. The first one started with static. Then, a man's voice, tired, ragged. If you're listening to this, then I guess I'm dead. Or gone. I don't know. I didn't know where else to put this. But this car, it's seen everything. It's where it started, where it ended. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I paused the tape, looked around the garage like I expected someone to be watching. Then I pressed play again. Her name was Rachel. She was 17. It wasn't supposed to happen. I just wanted to scare her, make her listen. But then she screamed, and I panicked. And now she's buried where no one will find her. I stopped the recorder. My hands were shaking. I stared at it like it might catch fire. Was this a prank? A bad joke? A movie script someone left behind? I played the second recording. They'll find the car eventually. Maybe they'll find this tape. Maybe they won't. But I had to say it out loud. I had to confess. It's eaten at me every single day. I see her face every time I close my eyes. I thought I could live with it. I can't. The recording ended. Silenced. I sat there for a long time, staring. What was I supposed to do? Turn it in? Would the cops even believe me? The car was junk. No registration. No plates. Just a forgotten shell from another decade. But something about that voice, it didn't feel fake. It felt real. And if Rachel was real too, someone out there was missing her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the tape, the voice, the name. Rachel. 17. Buried where no one would find her. Well, maybe someone just had. Asterisk. The next morning, I went back to the garage early. I didn't open the shop. Didn't return any calls. I just stood in front of that old Cadillac like it was a crime scene. Because maybe it was. I popped the trunk. Nothing inside but a shredded spare tire, rusted jack, and a mouse nest made from torn-up upholstery. I pulled up the carpet lining, checked. Beneath the panels, no signs of blood, no signs of anything. I knew I wouldn't find a body. That wasn't what the guy on the tape said. But I hoped maybe I'd find a name, a note, a clue, anything. Nothing. I looked up the VIN number. It was barely legible on the dash, but I managed to read it. Typed it into the DMV search tool I had access to through the shop's account. The result came back. Status, decommissioned. Registered owner, Stephen M., Drake. Columbus, Ohio. Registration canceled 2008. Stephen M. Drake. Never heard of him. I searched the name online. A few results came up. Old business filings, a photo from a Chamber of Commerce event dated 1996, and one obituary. Died in 2014. No surviving family listed. Was he the voice on the tape? I listened again. That worn, guilty voice, it could have been his. I looked up local missing persons cases involving a Rachel, but there were dozens, hundreds, none that lined up exactly. No one specifically mentioned a Cadillac or a 17-year-old girl matching the vague timeline, but something in me wouldn't let it go. Later that afternoon, I did what I should have done first. I called the sheriff's office, told them I'd found something potentially criminal in a car I'd bought from the impound. I didn't say exactly what, just that I had a cassette tape with a confession on it. They told me to bring it in.so I did. Two deputies met me in the back office of the station. I handed over the recorder. They plugged it into a speaker. We listened, all three of us, silent. When it ended, they just looked at each other. The older one, Sergeant Hughes, asked, "Where exactly did you find this again?" I explained. "The impound lot. The Cadillac. The dash." I gave them the VIN and the name from the registration. Hughes nodded slowly. "Stephen Drake," he muttered, as if the name was familiar. The younger deputy, Morales, was flipping through a tablet. "Sir," he said to Hughes, "I think you should see this." He turned the screen around. It was a case file, dated 2004. Rachel Loring, missing, age 17. Last seen leaving a tutoring session at Ohio State. My heart sank. I looked at the photo. Brunette, freckles, a shy smile. It had to be her. Hughes asked if I'd be willing to make a formal statement. I said yes. That was the beginning of a nightmare I didn't know I was stepping into. Over the next week, detectives visited the garage, combed through the Cadillac, took samples, scanned for evidence. They asked if I'd driven the car anywhere. Thank God I hadn't. They wanted every scrap of paper I'd found in the car, every screw I'd removed, every inch of it accounted for. Then came the news. They found trace biological material under the carpet in the back seat. Blood, they said, deteriorated from time, but human. A match was still pending. They reopened Rachel Loring's case officially. News vans parked outside my garage. Reporters wanted interviews. I declined every time. And then, I got a visit from someone I never expected. A woman, late 50s, kind eyes, worn clothes. She came into the shop while I was sweeping the bay. "You're the mechanic who found the tape, right?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm Rachel's mother," she said softly. "I just wanted to thank you." I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. I offered her a seat. She declined. "I thought no one would ever find out," she continued. "It's been over 20 years. People moved on. They assumed she ran away. But I knew. I knew something was wrong." We stood in silence for a long moment. "She was a good girl," she added. "Loved books. Wanted to study literature. She had this big plan to write children's stories. She carried this little notebook everywhere." Her voice cracked. She reached into her purse and pulled out an old, tattered journal. "This is all I have left." I didn't know why, but I asked, "Do you want the car?" She looked surprised. "The Cadillac?" "Yeah, I can tow it to your place. Maybe there's something else in there. Something they missed." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." So I did. That night, I trailered the old Cadillac to her small house on the edge of town, parked it in her driveway. She thanked me again and said, "I'm not ready to open it yet, but maybe one day." Back at the shop, I couldn't stop thinking about it. About the tape, the voice, the fact that a car, sitting for years, had more honesty in it than the man who owned it. And about Rachel. I looked up more on Stephen Drake. Turns out, he was a local business consultant, taught seminars, wrote a book in the early 2000s called Lead with Integrity. The irony wasn't lost on me. No criminal record, no red flags, just a normal guy who'd done something monstrous and hidden it in plain sight. And it made me wonder how many other normal guys were out there hiding things in their trunks. The detectives told me the case was now officially active. The DA was considering charges posthumously, something about closing the file for the family's sake. But for me, it wasn't over, because when I took a closer look at that tape recorder, I realized something. There was a third file point one I hadn't seen before. The The third recording was labeled only with a scratched-in #3 on the cassette body. It was shorter than the first two, maybe 15 minutes, tops. I sat alone in my garage, lights off, door locked, heart pounding, and hit play. The voice was the same, dry, worn, haunted. But this time, something was different. Like whoever was speaking had passed some internal point of no return. If someone ever hears this, I assume I'm already gone, either from guilt or luck. I'm not proud of what I did. I was a coward. I didn't plan it, but I covered it up like I did. And that's maybe worse that it was supposed to be a ride. Just a ride. I offered Rachel a lift because it was raining. She said yes. I'd driven her a few times before. Her mom worked front desk at one of our buildings that I don't know what happened. I just snapped that I told her I liked her. She got quiet. She said, "I think I'll walk from here." That look on her face, I reached out to stop her. She screamed, and then it happened. I pushed. She hit her head, and then it was like someone else took over the rest. I'm not going to say it, but I did what I did, and I buried the evidence under lies, under a seat, under years of silence that I couldn't sleep for a long time. But you'd be amazed what people forget, even me. The tape clicked off. I stared at the recorder for a long time. My hands were shaking. There was no mention of where he left her body, no address, no location, no full names even. But something about the confession hit harder than the first two. Maybe it was the rawness, the sense that he wasn't just confessing. He was unraveling. I sent the new tape to the sheriff's office the next day. They called me that evening. Apparently, the second tape had given them enough detail to reopen the case. But this third one, it was different. The county forensic team matched Rachel's blood to the trace found in the Cadillac. That already solidified things. But now they were after something more. Closure. Justice. Remains. They brought in dogs, ground-penetrating radar, everything. Fields near the outskirts of the city, especially near where Stephen Drake used to own property. A storage unit. A warehouse. Nothing at first, until 3 days later I was elbow deep in the undercarriage of a Honda when the news alert popped up on my phone. Breaking. Remains found believed to be missing teen Rachel Loring. I sat down on the cold garage floor, grease still on my gloves. My vision blurred. The article said they discovered a shallow grave in a wooded area just beyond Drake's old country house. No current tenants. The new owners had allowed a search. The team had found fragments of clothing, bone, and jewelry. Enough for a preliminary ID. A small silver bracelet engraved with the name Rachel that I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, numb. Later that evening, Mrs. Loring came back to the shop. I hadn't expected her. She looked different, tired, but relieved in a tragic way. They found her, she said, after 21 years. I nodded. I always thought I'd feel angry, she added. But I just feel empty, like I've been holding my breath since she disappeared. I offered her a cup of coffee. She accepted this time. We sat in the office in silence for a while. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Do you believe in fate, Mr. Wheeler?" I hesitated. Sometimes. Because that car could have gone to the crusher. It almost did. But it came to you. And you listened. Most people wouldn't have even noticed. I didn't know what to say. I just looked at my hands, still streaked with oil, and wondered how many other mechanics had been so close to a secret and never realized. The media kept buzzing for weeks. I kept my head down. But it wasn't over yet, because 3 days after the discovery, I got a call from Deputy Morales. "There's something you need to see." He said they'd processed the entire Cadillac again. This time with high-resolution scans, fiber analysis, the whole works. And what they found, a compartment, built into the passenger side footwell, sealed with factory paneling, practically invisible unless you knew where to look. Inside it, a locked metal box. They opened it. Inside was a stack of Polaroids, dozens of them. Some showed Rachel, others, other girls. Girls no one could immediately identify. But the worst part, a small black notebook filled with names, dates, details, victims. No one knew yet. The detectives were scrambling. What started as a closed cold case had just exploded into something far worse, possibly serial. And I'd been the one to light the fuse. That night, I sat in my garage again. No cars, no customers, just silence that I thought about how easy it had been to overlook. How many secrets get buried in machines? How steel and rubber can outlast memory, guilt, even justice. And I thought about Rachel. I kept a photo of her now, Just one, stuck to my corkboard, a reminder that some cars carry more than miles. They carry stories, and sometimes confessions. Asterisk, the notebook found in the hidden compartment changed everything. At first, detectives thought it might be some kind of journal, disjointed thoughts, ramblings, maybe more details about Rachel's death, but it was methodical, organized, disturbingly so. Each page was dedicated to a name, a first name, a location, and a date. Most entries had short, coded notations like RT, last seen, or BT window. The handwriting was tight, deliberate, cold. There were 19 entries. Rachel's name was the third, which meant there could be 18 more victims. The police kept the contents under wraps, but leaks happened fast. By the end of the week, headlines were calling Stephen Drake a suspected serial predator and the man who hid his crimes in plain sight. News vans lined the street outside my shop. One reporter even offered me $5,000 for an exclusive. I told him to shove it. I didn't want to be a hero. I wasn't one. I just fixed cars. Or at least, I used to. It was 2 weeks later when I got the fourth and final cassette. NO labeled NO return address. Just a padded envelope stuffed into my shop mailbox sometime during the night that I stared at it for hours before playing it. Something about this one felt final. I sat down, alone again, and hit play. The voice was quieter this time. Slower. Measured. If you found this, then you know. All of it. Or most of it. Enough that I wasn't always a monster. That word used to sound absurd. But it fits now. I stopped fighting it a long time ago. There are some things I did that will never be uncovered. Places no one will search. Victims. Without names. I used to think that made me clever. Efficient. But now? I just see their faces when I close my eyes. That I didn't kill for pleasure. Not in the beginning. It was about control. Silencing people who saw through me. Who rejected me. Rachel was the first who fought back. And when she did, I lost control. After that, I learned, planned, hid things better. You think you know me now, but this isn't even half of it. There was a pause, a long one. For a moment, I thought the tape had ended. But then, there's one more car. A blue 92 Lincoln. I kept it. It was my last one. It's at the bottom of Lake Merrow, just off Route 8. If you care enough to find it. Well, asterisk, maybe there's still time to stop someone else like me. Click. That was it. No names. No goodbyes. Just a location. A challenge that I didn't call the cops right away. Instead, I drove to Lake Merrow. It was a murky stretch of water surrounded by pine and silence. Cold even in the summer. People used to fish there, but it had long been abandoned. Algae blooms, erosion, rumors that I stood by the edge, watching the water lap at the shore. Could a car really be down there? Later that week, the sheriff's department brought in divers. They found it within an hour. The Lincoln was submerged in silt and moss, practically welded to the lake bed. But it was there. When they finally hauled it up, the stench hit the crowd like a wall. Inside the trunk, bones, a purse, teeth, another girl, unidentified. For now. Why now? The FBI had taken over. The case was national. Maybe international. Stephen Drake's former company records were under audit. His properties across 3 states were being searched. Some of his old co-workers were being questioned. No one had suspected a thing, but I couldn't stop thinking about the how. How did someone get away with this for so long? How many bodies could hide inside trunks? How many lives could be erased by turning an ignition key and driving into darkness? I shut down my shop for a month. Mrs. Loring came by again, this time with her son. We talked, cried a little. She told me Rachel's remains would finally be buried under her real name. That mattered to her. I gave her the original tape recorder. She said she didn't want to hear it, but maybe her son would, someday. She hugged me before leaving. It felt heavier than any engine I'd ever lifted. 3 months later, I got a letter from someone claiming to be Rachel's cousin. It said, "I just wanted to say thank you. You're the reason we know the truth, not the police. I used to think machines were soulless things. But now I wonder, maybe they absorb pieces of us. Maybe that car remembered, and maybe it waited for someone like you to listen." The Cadillac is gone now, part of the evidence archive. But sometimes I swear I still hear the click of that tape deck when I close the garage, like a ghost turning over in the back seat, like a secret whispering from the wires. And every time I open a hood now, I check deeper. Beneath the carpet, behind the panels, under the seats. Because sometimes cars carry more than just people. Sometimes they carry the truth, and it's just waiting to be heard at the end.